start off this video by saying thank you to anyone who's watching. John and I had such a wonderful time on our trip to Europe, and I'm really excited to share more about it with you. So here we are at the airport. There's our plane for Aer Lingus. We decided to fly directly into Dublin rather than into Paris because it was a little bit cheaper overall, and we thought it'd be fun to spend a day in Dublin. So here we are waiting. Our flight did get a little bit delayed, but we didn't let that dampen our spirits too much. So once our plane landed in Dublin, we took a short bus over to a stop near our hotel so that we could drop off our luggage before we started exploring. At this point, we were both very exhausted between the long flight and the flight being delayed, but overall we were just really excited to be there in Dublin, and we decided to hit the ground running and take advantage of the time that we had, start walking off that jet lag and see some cool stuff. So here we are on our way to our first stop. So our first stop in Dublin was Trinity College, where we were hoping to see the Book of Kells as well as the Trinity College Library, which, let me tell you, was one of the highlights of the trip for me. But we didn't book a time ahead of time just because we weren't exactly sure when we were going to arrive. So once we got there, we reserved a ticket time and had to wait a little bit, so we just started exploring the grounds, and it was such a beautiful place. So once we were done exploring, we just took a seat on the green with a bunch of other people, and it was just so relaxing. The weather was so nice, and then finally we got to enter the exhibit. I don't have much footage from this, but inside there were a lot of displays that showed the meanings and the making of various parts of the Book of Kells, and then we got to see a couple pages in a different room. And here is the library. Oh my gosh, it was such a dream. Oh, I could have been in there forever. I wish that I could have been. Once Sean pulled me away from the library, we did move on and decided to get some dinner. We stopped at this pub called Mulligan and Haynes, where of course I got a Fanta, because if you don't know, Fanta in Europe is completely different. It's more like carbonated orange soda, so I always get it a lot when I'm there, and I just loved the ambiance of this place. It really felt so cozy. I decided to go with the beef and Guinness stew, and John went with fish and chips, one of many that he would get on this trip. From there, we walked over to Christchurch Cathedral. We were hoping to have enough time to also visit St. Patrick's Cathedral, but we did not have enough time. I have heard that if you had to choose, many people prefer Christchurch, but obviously I can't say. I will say that we had a wonderful experience at Christchurch Cathedral. We came for evensong, but thankfully we had some time to explore a little bit beforehand. One of the things that I loved most about this church was the flooring. The tile was so beautiful. It was so unique and colorful and unlike anything I had ever seen in a church, and I was just blown away by it. While we were walking around, the choir started practicing for evensong, and while I didn't think it would be appropriate to record during evensong, I did record some of their practice, and it was just so beautiful that I wanted to share that. I was then able to get one more short clip of them singing. If you notice me walking down the stairs, that is because underneath the church there is a crypt, which you can go into. There's an exhibit with various artifacts and also a gift shop and bathrooms. So we did make use of that, and it was just really cool. After we finished the evensong service at the church closed, and I believe St. Patrick's was closed too, but we were actually just ready to get back to the hotel. It was later than it looked, and we were going to have a busy day the next day. So here we are heading back towards our hotel. So on the way back to our hotel, we saw this donut shop called the Rolling Donut, and I love donuts, so we had to stop. I got the deconstructed rhubarb crumble donut, and John got some kind of drink. And then the next morning, we had breakfast, and then we were back to the airport for our flight to Paris. So this was actually one of the most stressful experiences of my entire life. The airport was so busy, and we thought we had gotten there early enough, and turns out we barely did. We ran to the gate after we got through security. I was so exhausted and crying, and I was so relieved that we made it. So after we landed in Paris, we spent our afternoon relaxing a little bit, and then we got dressed up and started making our way toward the location of our dinner river cruise along the Seine. This is one of the experiences that we booked using credit card reward points, and it was honestly the perfect way to spend our first evening in Paris. We got to have a lot of really incredible authentic French food, as well as enjoy seeing some of the sights around Paris from the view of the river. I highly recommend it to anyone. So the first part of this cruise is on the top of the ship, where you can enjoy the sights and have some drinks. And then once we made it to the Eiffel Tower, the boat would turn around while we went down below to eat dinner. I don't know if this is the way it is every evening in Paris, or if there was something going on while we were there, but there were so many people out by the river and so many groups of people dancing. I don't know if they were competitions or if people just gather around and enjoy dancing together. Some of the music was live, some of it looked like it was being played by a DJ, but yeah, there were tons of groups like this. Unfortunately, this was not the side to come from if you want a good view of Notre Dame. This was the side with all the scaffolding, but no worries, because from our hotel we had an incredible view. As mentioned before, once we got to the Eiffel Tower, the boat turned around and we went down below for dinner. We had some baguette on our table, and I also ordered a glass of champagne. John wanted to order something different between us for all of our courses, so my first course was foie gras, and his was tomatoes with burrata. And foie gras, if you don't know, is like a duck liver pate kind of thing. Imagine meat-flavored butter. It was kind of weird. And then my dinner was some kind of lamb, and I can't remember what John's was. For dessert, I got this lemon tart, and John got some kind of chocolate mousse. It was all so good, so flavorful. So these next couple clips are slowed down because I wanted to give myself time to explain. We are on our way to the catacombs of Paris, which is something I was really excited to do, but we booked it with credit card points, and it turns out it was a scam, so we actually didn't get to go. There were no other times available while we were in Paris. So we were super bummed about that, but then we ended up going to this little cafe across the street, and I got the croque monsieur, which is like ham and cheese, like a fancy ham and cheese, and John got a plate of various cheeses, and then we just explored a little bit. I will note that since we booked that experience with credit card reward points, we weren't out any money, which we're very thankful for. We probably could have even gotten the points back, but we didn't pursue it. This was a super hot day in Paris. We came at a time of year when it was just outrageously warm, and unfortunately a lot of places didn't have air conditioning, so I just did my best to dress well, to dress in a way that would keep me cool. Here we are on our way to the Musee de Cluny, which is like a medieval art and artifact museum. Going down below, this was an old bathhouse, which was very cool, a nice break from the heat, and I just thought it was so, like, I don't know, transcendent almost. It was really incredible to be down there. So a lot of the artwork and artifacts here were religious, including this incredible altar piece. So part of this museum is built on the site of an ancient bathhouse, as I mentioned before. But I believe that most of the museum is housed within the Hotel de Cluny, which was once the grand residence of the abbot of the Cluny monastic order. So when the abbot would come to Paris, he would stay here and then use it for gatherings or his own personal enjoyment. There were so many Pieta pieces at this museum, and this was one of my favorites. I'm always just blown away by the emotion that comes across in the pieces. These two clips are from the private chapel, and unfortunately the light wasn't really cooperating, but it was just stunning. The ceilings especially were so intricate and gorgeous. So we're about to see kind of the star of the show, something that I was really excited to see, partially because they are depicted within the Gryffindor common room. But these are the tapestries, The Lady and the Unicorn. There are 6 tapestries from around 1500, and each one depicts one of the 5 senses, as well as a 6th sense, which is kind of a sense of the heart, an interior sense. It was so fun to look around at them and to try to determine which sense each tapestry was depicting. From there, we went to Sainte-Chapelle, which was also one of my favorite things that we saw on this entire trip. So this is the lower chapel, which, if you can believe it, is not nearly as grand or breathtaking as what we'll see soon above in the upper chapel, but it was still really gorgeous. It was so colorful and grand, and this chapel was dedicated to the Virgin Mary. It was used for non-royals, and it's also home to this beautiful statue of Louis IX. To get to the upper chapel, you had to climb this very narrow, winding staircase. I think there might have been a wheelchair access too, but it was well worth it. Oh my gosh. Immediately, I was just blown away. The upper chapel houses over 7,000 square feet of glass, not including the round rose window, which you'll see here in a moment. It was created in the late 15th century, and it has 89 separate panels depicting scenes of the apocalypse. Around the chapel are 15 large, tall windows, which begin with a depiction of Genesis and moving around depict other parts of scripture as well. I honestly could have been in here for hours. It was so breathtaking. It felt like I was in a dream, and I can't imagine doing mass here. Wow. After this, we walked around for a bit. I have to be completely honest in saying that I was really tired on this trip and really struggled with feeling nauseous, and I've just never had jet lag like I had on this trip. But we did stop into this patisserie, and we walked over to a park and sat down and enjoyed our pastries as well as some Haagen-Dazs. Like I said, it was so hot that a treat like that was just completely worth it, even if it wasn't very Parisian. If I remember correctly, that bakery, Paul, was about to close, so I only got an eclair, but it was really delicious, and we just enjoyed being in this park on a beautiful day. So here we are the next day, waiting at the metro station to take a train to the Musée d'Orsay, which is the modern art museum in Paris. The Musée d'Orsay is located inside of an old train station, so it was such a cool setting to display all of this art. It had so much natural light, and the architecture was just incredible. There's truly no way to describe just being surrounded by so much beauty, just everywhere you turn, something incredible and intricate and well crafted. It's truly transcendent. I don't know how to describe it except transcendent. While we were at this museum, there was a special exhibit from Aristide Maillol, who is a French artist, particularly known for sculpture, and I really appreciated the way that he depicted women of all shapes and sizes. I'm also a huge fan of Monet, so it was really cool to see some pieces that I wasn't familiar with while we were on this trip. This is just one of the many that we saw at this museum. While we were at the museum, there was also an exhibit for Antoni Gaudí, who is a Spanish architect. This was a really cool exhibit, though I did not take much footage. And after we wandered a little bit more, we decided to stop for lunch at one of the restaurants in the museum. Thankfully, we didn't have to wait too long, but I got some pasta and John got some quiche. And then for dessert, I decided to just get this nice little fruit salad. And John got some kind of loaf cake. And after that, we moved on to the Impressionism area of the museum. In this area, we saw so many incredible works, including a lot of Renoir, Manet, and Monet, as well as Degas and Van Gogh. I tried not to get them in the video just for sake of respect and privacy reasons, but in front of these Renoirs, there were some children and some teachers learning about this artwork, and I just thought that was so fun. I mean, can you imagine living in Paris and just getting to go see all these things during school? Man, so fun, so cool. And here's me trying and failing to get a clip of us in front of this clock face, but the light was just not cooperating. And here's honestly my favorite version of Starry Night. I thought this section about film was really cool, and I especially enjoyed this clip because it felt very meta of me taking a video of a video of a video. quite a few miniatures to look at, which is always something that I enjoy. I love how much detail people put into these miniature versions, such as this, which is obviously a miniature version of Paris that you could walk over. It was so beautiful, though I was freaked out that the glass was going to break. And as we come to a close on our footage from Musée d'Orsay, I have to say it was so beautiful. We spent all day there, and then we got some pizzas for dinner, which were delightful. Thank you for watching. I have more to come, so make sure to subscribe or come back later.